Hello, welcome.
Hey, welcome everyone. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining us. We invite you, of course, if you would like to switch your cameras on. First of all, well, I'm Korina. I just first want to say that unfortunately, my internet connection is not very stable today. So it could be that I go for a second out and in. So just to let you know, unfortunately, I don't think there's anything I can do right now about it. So welcome. This is the second online encounter of the project, Postapocalyptic Encounters. And this project is a series of workshops that already happened. And now we're having a cycle of online encounters. And the aim of the project is to bring together in these events people that are interested in thinking and creating through ways of thinking that are based on non-Eurocentric bodies of knowledge, just to speak it very generally about it. And today, our meeting was supposed to be with two guests,
So I'm gonna take over. Hello, my name is Bianca. My name is Bianca Mendonça.
I'm back. So the meeting was supposed to happen between the curator and visual artist, Lilian Fraiji, and the dance artist, Marta Hincapié-Charry. But unfortunately, really unfortunately, Marta had the problem and she'll not be able to join us today. So today is like a special situation because our guest, Lilian Fraiji, is here. And so the conversation will be between Lilian, myself, and Bianca Mendonça. So I'm Korina Kordova, and Bianca Mendonça is also here. We are initiating and curating this project. There is also Lena Peters here today that is responsible for the documentation and for the production of the project. So yes, so here I'm one of the initiators and curators, and I'm a choreographer and dancer. I also work as a dance dramaturg. And I'm originally from Brazil. I'm currently based in Stockholm, and I'm speaking right now from Poland. And yes, so I invite now Bianca Mendonça just to introduce herself.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Bianca Mendonça. I am also the second initiator together with Korina and Lena from this project. I also grew up in Brazil, and in the last decade, I'm based in Europe and now based in Cologne, Germany. And my background is from contemporary theater and contemporary dance. And I work in the field of research and contemporary choreography. And I would like now to invite our colleague, Lena Peters, to introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm Lena, and as Korina already told you, I'm responsible for the production and the documentation of this project. I am from Germany. I have been living in Cologne, Germany for the last 14 years, and now I just relocated to Lisbon, Portugal.
They're fantastic people. I show them
okay. We have a new guest. And yeah, I work as a dancer, as a cultural producer, as a dramaturg, and also as a teacher. And yeah, welcome. I'm very happy to have you all here tonight with us. And now I'm really happy to introduce our guest, Lilian Fraiji. She's a curator, a producer, and an environmental activist based in the Amazon, Brazil. She is the co-founder of the organization La Verde. And this is a platform which is dedicated to the development of multidisciplinary content involving art, science, traditional knowledge, and ecology. And Lilian also works as an independent researcher, and she's interested in how culture is related to nature and how language is related to the Anthropocene. So a very warm welcome, Lilian. We are really happy that you are with us tonight.
Sorry, I was mute. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for the introduction. It's great for being here with you today. It's also great that we are a small community, and I know a few of people that are in the public, so welcome Lisa, welcome Karini. It's wonderful to be able to share with you today and also share with the community, you know, that is small, but it's full of passion for our subjects. Korina.
Hello.
So maybe I would like to start. Can I propose?
Oh.
I would like just to tell a few things about the structure of the night of today, of this meeting. So we are going to start a conversation, and then in the end we are gonna open for the audience to engage with us in the conversation through questions, through comments. It's also relevant to say that the Zoom is being recorded because part of the project is about to document these meetings, about telling what we are doing here is also to sharing knowledge and sharing these experiences. So we hope that also what is being shared here can serve in the future for other people. And the documentation is going to be in our website later, through in the form of text and in the form of a short video of the Zoom. And you are more than welcome after this meeting to send us pictures, write texts, images that you related to this meeting that came up to your mind. So we have like the aim to make kind of community around these topics, around these topics and ideas that move and joy us, wherever we are.
So I might change the methodology a little bit because since I know several members of the public, and since I know that they really can contribute to our discussion, perhaps they also can share their point of views and also can share their doubts, you know, if they have any doubts, and then we can do like this postura
And this
Yes,
is
is to sewing this discussion
yes.
In a more democratic way. What do you think about?
For me, it's fine.
Yes, I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea to have a big conversation. So updating whatever you feel, you can join.
Okay. Yes, and also what Bianca said about the documentation, since we're gonna open up like this, you are very welcome to send us something afterwards, but also you can maybe write something in the chat or put something in the chat if you would like, even through, and then later we'll see when we open, then we can just call you to, you know, maybe you connected something that you know to something that we're talking about. I think we can welcome that too. So, you know, we were talking just before everybody came in about, you know, that because Marta, who is not here today, no, she is an artist from Colombia. And Marta has an indigenous background. And then me, Bianca, and Lilian, we were talking about, you know, like how now the conversation, it turned out to be a different context, because like three of us, we're three women from Brazil, but with also very different backgrounds, you know, because I grew up in Sao Paulo. So like a very, let's say, much more like an urban space that is like very influenced by, you know, European immigration, of course, as most, you know, a lot of the country, with not so, at least in that period, there wasn't really, let's say, a visibility, no, of povos originários, of, you know, the indigenous people from the country didn't really have visibility, in at least in the context where I grew up. And like Lilian has a completely different experience, even though we're from the same country. Bianca also from a different place. So we maybe thought about like also like maybe starting from this and what it is, you know, like this place where now a Brazilian body can stand, that I can even maybe bring now the work of Simas, who talks about the bodies at the crossroad, you know, because it's like when me and Bianca, for example, when we were in the Amazon forest with somebody from the População Ribeirinha, from a population of the region, you know, like this person could in one sentence mix indigenous knowledge with Christian belief, as well as Afro-Brazilian, let's say, mythology. So like in one sentence, there was like this whole, there was so much information and so many backgrounds that were mixed that we started to talk about this just before everyone came in.
Like we start to talk about this body that is in between. This body, like, and this contradiction and this problematic of the body in between, like this in a Brazilian context, we are white. At the same time, we do not identify ourselves in this sense of white European, since we grew up in Brazil, we grew up with these smells, with these influences, these other knowledges around our body, this knowledge of a colonized country, of this country that is an indigenous country. Through our work, we got interested in this in the original knowledge that it was in this place before the European knowledge arrived, before the Europeans arrived. And we feel like, I mean, what is this body between? This body that is placed sometimes in a context and placed sometimes in another context. Also this body that grew up in this colonized country, and at the same time, for example, especially in the case of Korina and I, we have an experience of working in Europe and living here. This body that kind of meet all these contradictions together. And the way that we identify ourselves and the way that we place ourselves in this, and with these contradictions. So we do not speak from the place of the indigenous, so we do not also speak from the place of the white. We speak maybe for a place for a Latino, we speak maybe for places from a body that struggles with different influences and allow itself to observe these influences and to navigate in it.
Yeah, here in the Amazon, in the anthropology, I don't know who is saying this. I can check here later on in my books, but they say, I would like to add this layer in this conversation about how you see the words, and we are also females, right? And understanding the landscape, the Amazonian landscape, this anthropology is saying that the landscapes hit you in a transversal way. It's very similar as Korina was telling us about this crossroads, não? Que o nosso corpo está na encruzilhada, né? Que eu acho que é
yes.
A narrative, a black narrative of religion, black narrative. And I feel also this is the same here in the landscape of the Amazon, that we always are in that transversal way. And this anthropology is saying that in a vertical way, we always can see man, that man is always stand with their opinions, and stand with their rights, and stand in the landscape, to domain the landscape, to put himself, to control landscape, to control nature, no? And I can also figure that it's not the man itself, but it's the European man, right? He was referring to the European man. And then the female, it's always in the man is always in a vertical way, and the female is always in a horizontal way. It's always in trying to care about land, it's trying to care about the other beings, it's putting herself in a condition of exchanging between beings, to be the great mediator. So I think would also be interesting to add this layer of gender in our conversation, especially because we are talking about nature. And you were mentioning that we are white, but not white. I don't consider myself white because here in the Amazon, we have like this Lebanese migration, and a granddaughter of a Lebanese, and a mix with black, mixed with German. So I'm a big mix of everything. And I was raised here in the Amazon. I grew up here in the forest. So all my background is here, and I have learned with traditional knowledge how to deal with this culture. So I'm totally influenced by the thoughts about the Amazon. And we understand the Amazon as a colony of Brazil. So if Europe understands Brazil as a colony, I understand Amazon as a colony of Brazil. So we are facing two struggles here. We are facing the colony of the world, and we are facing the colony to be the colony of Brazil. That's why I think I have to in my opinion, I have many kind of similarities, but living here, put myself in another condition of existence. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
And this condition of existence implies circumstances that is living here. To live in the Amazon, we have to really be strong. Don't understand what it says.
Is someone speaking, or was it accidental?
Yeah. So just to conclude, that living here, we have to be strong, really strong. For instance, because all in this discussion about environment, about environmental crisis, we have to always understand that environmental crisis is felt in a totally different way. It depends where you are in the planet. For instance, here for me, the temperature already raised from my childhood to now, like 10 degrees. Here is way more hotter. Yeah, way more hotter than it was when I was a child. Nowadays, in the month of September, the city, it's like involved in a fog. So everybody got sick by diseases of the breathing diseases, breath diseases. I don't know how we call this in English. So for instance, in 2015, my smaller children almost died because she got pneumonia. Pneumonia. How can I say this in English?
Pneumonia.
Pneumonia.
And this was because of deforestation. This was because of pollution. And in this sense, I want to figure myself not as a victim. I'm not playing the victim here, but I'm just saying that we are living in a totally different situation and context. That's why, and this is always like shaping myself, molding my culture, molding my understanding of the world.
It's also what also shapes, like, for example, the place that Korina and I live, even if you really live in a very privileged place, and have a very privileged condition, we also carry another background, which it's impossible to attach our daily life here. We carry this background of being an immigrant, a Latin immigrant. We grew up with completely another influences, and we have accent, and we learned the language very split, and we never speak really dig totally in the culture for the place we live. As an immigrant, which also bring in our cases, also this other point in this being white or not being white, for this bad in between. There is, for example, I don't know which is her. I really don't know the name of this reference, but there is. It is a Brazilian philosopher who says that the immigrant is the place in between, is the bad in between. The bad is the one who carries the role of talking about two places.
Two or more.
Yeah.
Now, just I got curious now. Did you say, Lilian, really that it changed 10 degrees since you were a child? It's warmer 10 degrees? Because this is really...
It's a lot.
No, because talking about immigration, I was just about 10 days ago in a scientific research center in north of Sweden, so just around like in the Arctic. And yeah, and it was like quite terrifying for me, that as a Brazilian person, like that, there are these studies, of course, about how to keep the cold places in the earth cold, because that's where we are going to have to go in the future. So it's a little bit like as if, the place where I'm from and you're from, it's doomed, and there is now just like the sort of course, everything that can be done to just make the process slower. So like to gain time so that humanity can actually adapt and find new solutions throughout the way. But in the sense that already what humanity has started, is something that cannot be reversed. So this that you said, because, I was just in this place and they were talking about there change like 1 degree or 2 degrees or something. But yes, like it was really like I was standing in a place where they said that places like this or Siberia, that's where we're going to be able to get to produce food.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, anyway, so now when you talked about this and like thinking about this acceleration and all the necessary measures that the scientists spoke about, it's just so terrifying.
Yeah, if you consider what IPCC says, IPCC says that the worst case scenario, it's the Earth is gonna warm 5 degrees. And also I feel that the discussion about global warming is a discussion that is always postponing the condition of global warming. Is always pointing, in the future, it's going to be a disaster. But we already are living the disaster here in the Amazon for more or less 10 years or so. You understand what I mean?
You are much.
So we already live in the end of the world. We already live in a apocalypse, because to link to the name of this encounter, we are already live in a very dystopic situation. And this is happening in the Amazon because we are suffering by the international influence, global warming and international influence, like the different and the Anthropocene and all these changes in biochemical landscape that is internationally spreads over the world. But we also are living, suffering by the local influence. For instance, when Bolsonaro says these awful things and to engage people to dig the earth, to destroy the forest, to garimpar, how can I say this in English? I forgot the word. But
mining
the Amazon, that Amazon is great to mining. And then things like are falling apart, because, for instance, when you deforestate, you have 25 more chance to get malaria, for instance. So everything is related, okay? So you get sick by the pollution of the air, you got sick by the pollution of the water, you got sick by the mosquitoes, that is way more due to deforestation. So we have no sewer system also. For instance, in the case of Manaus, we have 30% of the sewer system, just 30% cover the city. So we are like struggling inside here in the Amazon, struggling with this new invasion due to Bolsonaro claiming, but we also are struggling against this anthropogenic and international influence.
And I would like to come back to one thing you said, because I found very interesting that you pointed that you are a kind of a colony inside the colony. like this different levels that is Brazil, especially Korina and I that grew up in Brazil, in São Paulo, in the south. For who does not know the context, we the Amazon is really in the north, in Manaus, from where Lilian is talking, and São Paulo is the southwest. And there is inside the country a huge difference how people relate to one region to the others, how we will relate to the other, especially between south and north. And it is interesting because when I tell people in Europe that I have been in the north and made this research in this residency in the Amazon, and how they fantasize, how they imagine this place, it's very interesting to talk. And because most people does not know this huge difference in how even inside Brazil there is this how do you say this allegory about this place. It is allegory, this fantasy about this place. And I think when you bring up this idea that is the colony, I mean, that we deal like that the south of Brazil deal with the north as it would be a kind of colony, in the sense of not to bring the infrastructure that people has in the south to the north, of exploring, of not not doing through an environment way of dealing with this place, but through exploration from a massive, absurd, aggressive exploitation most parts, and especially now in the 4 years with Bolsonaro, there's no interest in controlling how this exploitation is been happening. And exploitation from inside Brazil, exploitation from companies outside, from a huge number of agencies that maybe we even don't know exactly because there is no investigation. So it's in coming back to the idea of this myth is apocalypse. So you said that the apocalypse started 10 years ago, and I would say it started it started 500 years ago, much before in this place. It's like the Amazon is, for me, it's a survivor. It's a body. Is this natural body, this natural body landscape who is a kind of resistant and surviving. So when I think in all these aspects, it's almost incredible that it still exists. It's like, how is it possible?
Yeah.
I mean, which were the shamans that made so much work, spiritual work in this forest to make it alive.
Yeah, the apocalypse happened here more than 500 years ago, when the Europeans arrived, when the Portuguese arrived to the Amazon. Then we have like this huge genocide that we tend to forget, and it's always happening the same and over and over and over, the same thing again, the genocide again. And it's the same how we had a meeting the other day, and we were like trying to understand the history of the Amazon and the history of these encounters between Portuguese and native people. And in the Amazon, you can see that is the same procedure, is the same way of doing so. It's the same genocides that are the same methods, right? Yeah. That happened more than 5 years ago, happened in the dictatorship in the 70s, where they were like throwing t-shirts with variola, with this kind of disease that were like killing the indigenous. In the 70s, many communities are also relating that the police were coming from the sky in the helicopter, like shooting with metralhadoras, with like this very fast shooting guns, and killing whole bunch of indigenous communities. So we already know that many got extincted. And now with the pandemic, we live the exactly same thing that we live in the 70s, because it was also with a disease. But why here in the Amazon or in Manaus, that is this state concentrating the biggest portion of ethnies and population, indigenous population in Brazil? Why this is happening, especially here in Manaus? Why Manaus was the worst city of Brazil, of the pandemic in Brazil? This, it's already was written in history, right? This is a genocide. This is planned. This is a programmation. This is also a plan.
Yes.
We are here. We are not supposed to be here in Manaus. We're not supposed to live here, right? We are supposed to be killed. And this are my feelings. And when they are like, when you have this idea about the Amazon, I'm always saying that the Amazon doesn't exist. The Amazon really doesn't exist, because it's like, how can I say this? It's arbitrary. Can I say this in English? Arbitrary to name one continental region full of different ecosystems, full of different populations, Black populations, quilombos, different like indigenous populations, people. For instance, just in my state, we have 56 different indigenous communities with 29 different languages. So I feel that we are living here in the most diverse social and biological diverse lands in planet. And why Brazil is treating us like this, right? Why Bolsonaro wants to kill the diversity of existence. So
yeah.
So we are always saying that the Amazon don't exist as a statement, right? We really have to understand and have to develop language. We have to develop the concept. We have to develop the cultural aspects to name the Amazon different, to name the complexity of the Amazon, to name their culture, to name their population, to also speak indigenous population language. That is, I am trying to understand, to learn now. But I think it's really urgent to do so, and to understand the complexity of the Amazon. No, Maranhão is totally different from Acre. You know, we have totally different backgrounds, history, memory, and also cultural identity. And this is really important, that Brazil really needs to understand the Amazon in this context, the context of complexity and diversity.
It's almost like if the apocalypse would be a colonial plan that is that what was put into action, and is still in action. Yeah.
And it starts.
Sorry, I just don't want to, because like when you understand the political history, right? I'm 40 years old, so for me, at the end of the earth, it's happening now because I'm not indigenous. So for me, it's happening this last decades. But if you understand the treatment that the government of PT, we cannot talk bad about PT right now. But if you understand the history of Brazil with the Amazon, it's always a relation of colonization. We always don't get infrastructure. We never got infrastructure. We never got the money from federal money. We never get solutions. And even though, for instance, the Amazon state are contributing to pay more taxes than gaining from federal government. So it was always, in the history of the Amazon, it was always a relation of colonization. It depends, of course, with Bolsonaro, things got way worse. Violence got way worse. But but was not very good 10 years ago, for instance.
And it's very interesting, like this idea of having, let's say, what people call nature, as a resource. Because it's like, for instance, now talking about specifically the forest. I mean, the Amazon is not only that, but when you talk about the forest, it's as if, okay, if you kill everybody and then you can extract from that, but the point is that the forest is as it is because of the people that are part of it also, no? It's something that is cultivated. It's not like a garden that is just there. I mean, so I find it interesting because this idea of the separation, I think it has a lot to do with this, the verticality that you were talking about in the beginning. I mean, this colonial and patriarchal like thinking, and that in a way now when you think about like transversally, as you were just speaking, no, and like through interconnectedness, how the actual exploitation, it's a little bit like shooting your own foot, no, because you take it out and then you just actually don't realize that you are taking it out of the whole ecosystem, and that's bad for themselves. But it's like the current government, I mean, not only current, no, but from, like you were saying, since the 70s, when they were actually on purpose just spreading diseases. They knew that the indigenous people did not have the anticorps to deal with, that was something that it was very interesting when I saw the work of Claudia Andujar, this photographer and activist that has the very interesting work. She started working with the Yanomami, documenting them in the 70s. And yes, so this whole process, and you saying that this, now in the pandemic, this, it was like sort of a revival of that. I remember that in the beginning of the pandemic, let's say, I think it was around June 2020, I was trying to start two work processes with two indigenous women that were in Brazil. And it was just terrifying. And of course, I mean, we couldn't continue because I would have these conversations with them. And I mean, it was so weird because I was really far, but at the same time, hearing from them that were in their, seeing all the elderly that are like sort of, like their libraries just dying one after another in this process. And that being something that is like, of course, wanted by so many. So yeah, it is.
Yes, it's this relation between vertical relation that is the same as the relation between subject and object. No, we have to for instance, for me, they named the Amazon this rich zone with just one name, Amazon, because they really want to make us to understand what is the subject and what is the object. For instance, in Brazil, the subject is the south and the object of Brazil is in the north. What is the culture and what is nature? The culture in the south of Brazil, nature is in the north of Brazil. Mm-hmm. They want to name and identify who are the exploiters and who are the explorados.
Yes, which is actually, there is this. And now going back to the vertical and the horizontal, that's one thing that also in the arts is something that is talked about a lot, about the direction between men and culture and women and nature. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
like, hierarchically positioned
Yes.
in a way, so that if, let's say, you know, women are somehow more basic.
Yes.
Yeah, and also if you think not just about the geography of Brazil, but also this division in the global context, that normally the southward is connected, okay, beautiful nature and so on, and then all the culture, technological development related to the north countries, placed in the north half of the world.
Yes. There is different kind of dynamics, right? There's this international dynamics that is, putting the South in such a position of colony, and also there is this dynamic inside of Brazil that is putting the North of Brazil as nature, as object. Lisa.
There's a
Lisa has a very nice comment.
Exactly.
It is no surprise that one of the richest humans on Earth and the most exploitative predatory company took the name Amazon, and it is based on consumption and exploitation of nature and the workers.
Yeah.
Do you want to say something, Lisa? If when you can turn on your microphone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it always annoys me that they took that name for the company. Also, because if you're also just being, I don't know if it's like this in other countries, but using the internet in the US, if you search for anything related to Amazonas, you are just given products instead and advertisements, right? So it's like taking the narrative, dominating the narrative even of the place, this company, this is like making it difficult to even discuss the Amazon on the internet between people and to connect about it. So in addition to exploiting through products and through just over this like hyper consumption, I guess, it's also blocking the conversation on the internet about it in some way. But yeah, anyways. Just a related comment.
Yes.
Thank you, Lisa.
Wonderful that you brought this concept of Amazon being related to this company. And I think the solution for that is really to break this idea of the Amazon. The Amazon is like in the past. We have to name in a different way. We have to really develop our language and our lexicon to try to name the differences inside of the Amazon, the different people, the different culture, the different regions, and leave the Amazon, this name for this company, and let's learn the diversity and let's use other names,
Makes make Amazon great again. So it's a joke.
Yes. I did. What did you say?
That's a joke. No, sorry, I just made a bad joke.
It's okay.
But Lilian, just for one moment, can you maybe repeat what you just said about like renaming, because I found it interesting and I didn't completely understand it. Just the last thing you said.
It's just because we are like in the field of language, right? When you deal with culture, we deal with different types of language. And I think it's our duty to understand that we really have to bring, really have to signify Amazon in a different way. We really have to represent the Amazon as this whole plurality that there exists in the Amazon. Amazon is very complex, and you really have to approach, in terms of language, this complexity. And that's what we defend here in Lab Verde, and that's what we are trying to do for many years, try to develop language to understand this possibility of existence. And I mean, like indigenous existence, indigenous knowledge, but also non-human existence, right? Because we also have to understand non-human, that non-human have memory, non-human have intelligence, non-human have history, a very long history, even longer than ours. Non-humans also have, we are claiming that also non-human have rights. So how can we also learn with the non-humans? How we can also translate their language and to be able to communicate, not even with like indigenous, that it's kind of more easy because, right? We are like also indigenous here in the Amazon somehow, but how we can also be related to nature and learn with the non-humans to coexist.
Yeah.
Yes. Lilian, I'm just curious because you said about you're answering Lena's question, and then you said that you do this in Lab Verde to work on a new language, and I mean I find that very interesting because I mean like this generalization, not only about the Amazon, but I mean if you think about the word indigenous, what does it actually say? It just says that okay, the person or the population is from that land, and it describes a relationship to the state, nothing else. So actually it's a generalization that was put there just to control, because they define themselves through difference. Yes. No, so it's just a mode of control. So I got really interested. Maybe you could talk a bit more about the way you work with that in Lab Verde. I got super curious about this.
So I have to say that you already understand that the Amazon is like a continental place, right? The Amazon is part of, I think you already know, but it's important to mention, just to give you this scale of this gigantic place. But the Amazon is like part of 9 different countries, 9 different states, 9 different countries in South America. I already mentioned, I don't know how many people exist in the Amazon, but I heard 250 different indigenous people. I don't know how many languages, but it's like way, I think perhaps hundreds of different languages in the Amazon. And I also can extend the dimension of the Amazon through the phenomena. You know that the Amazon is spread in time and space. The Amazon is not just here, but we are understanding now that the Amazon is really important for the maintaining climates in the whole planet, because the Amazon exports a lot of water, right? So we can say that the Amazon, the rain that is falling in the south of hemisphere is the Amazon, is a phenomenon, is how the Amazon perform. We can also say that when we have a black cloud, this I'm talking about for the Brazilians already remember that in São Paulo came a black cloud in São Paulo due to deforestation in the Amazon. Remember that in 2019. So this is also another manifestation of the Amazon. I'm just bringing these examples for you to understand the dimension of the Amazon, the Amazon impacts, the Amazon culture. So in Lab Verde, we can just talk about the Amazon in a very small part of the Amazon. We are here located in Manaus. Manaus, we are it's a city near to the water, the biggest water basin on Earth. Due to that, we have different aquatic ecosystems. And here we have like 3 or 4 different different type of the rainforest. We have like this rainforest of Campina that is smaller. It's like the one here behind. We have this idealistic version of the rainforest that is like this river, like a serpent crossing the forest. This idea that we have, when you think about the Amazon, you think like these big trees, huge trees. So we also have that. But this is a very small part of the rainforest. And what we do here at Lab Verde is that we connect the institution of investigations, the research institutions. So we have two collaborations. We collaborate with the School of Anthropology, full of indigenous intellectuals from many different kind of communities, right? Indigenous communities and cosmologies, one totally different from others. And we also collaborate with the National Institute of Amazonian Research and with their team of scientists. So we try to combine different set of knowledge to investigate language in the field and in the field here nearby. So we have like this indigenous professor, we have like scientist professors, and also indigenous as participating as residents. Also, we have indigenous artists. So we're trying to mix all this, you know, this place of knowledge. We try to combine. So receiving indigenous as an intellectual, as a research, but also putting a scientist also in the condition of the arts, is trying to mix these places and hierarchical relationship between disciplines, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also have a curiosity also related to this practice with this place, because Lab Verde brings a lot of people from outside to do these residencies, right? I mean, some foreign people. And I would be very curious, how the vibrations of this place reverberate when people from completely another context come inside, how the vibrations, how this place reverberates in them and in these bodies, and how these bodies reverberate in your bodies. How, if you could tell me a little bit about this experience.
I think this is also very, it's a friction, right? It's a tension, it's a scenario of tension, because I'm saying, oh, it's beautiful, like we put everybody together, it's very romantic, you know, how I figure, I just hear myself and it seems very romantic, but to be honest and to be true, this is a very attention situation, because you are like bringing Europeans, and then we are bringing indigenous, and then we are bringing artists and science. There is this friction between disciplines that is very important, exists. In Europe, I think things are more democratic in terms of disciplines. But here, to put a scientist to collaborate with an artist, it's something that it's not easy, right? It's coming with a lot of tension, because you have like a memory, right? A memory where disciplines are hierarchized, né? Hierarchized, I don't know, are like vertical.
Hierarchical,
yeah. And then we have the layer of colonialism, and then we have the layer of history, and then the layer of this past movements of genocide that is really important for us to discuss. And I think it's always very difficult for us. For instance, we still haven't took a group or an international group in an indigenous community that we like to work, because we are scared, because we understand that to do a very great community engaged artwork where community can really improve and can really get something out of this relation, I think takes time. I think takes commitment, and something that deals also with language. How can like a European that doesn't speak Portuguese can do something really beautiful and something really meaningful for a community if it doesn't even speak Portuguese, right? Or how he can understand what is important for this community. I think it's something that we still are discussing. We don't have the answers. I still not that comfortable. And what we reach, we have done, like this year, we have done a residency just with local artists from the Amazon. And in this residence, we took this group of artists in these communities. And it was really amazing, you know, because we have like the same repertory, we have the same identification, we have the same problems. And it was really easy, you know, to understand each other. It was like, and I think this is a discussion that all of the residencies are facing, right? How we can really make strong connections, make connections that are important for both of the subjects, right?
And it's interesting because this brings me a little bit for the beginning of our conversation, of the place we are. And I asked this question because when in 2020 I went to make this research in the Amazon, I also dealt a lot with this my place because I'm Brazilian, but I'm from the south and not originally from this place. And then I developed. And then after this experience and after the exchange with these specific communities, I developed the work in Germany with Europeans, which it was another question. And for them, it was also a big question. And it is in my practice. And I realized that also the practice became of dealing with this contradiction, how to deal with it. And they didn't want to assume a position of putting experiences and putting people in hierarchy in the sense, okay, you have more, you have less, but how to find these places of interests, and which interests each person, depending of your background, can get. And what you can gain, and how each context can gain from this. And I believe that Korina had a similar experience because we have been in the research together, and then she went to a very different context.
Yeah, for me, I'm just like when Lilian talked about this romanticism, you know. For me, I ask myself this question a lot, like in the sense that I always, you know, like I went there and I really didn't want to fall into this sort of romantic views and and then through my, let's say, lived experience there, I started to actually something. I'm just like thinking about what can happen to somebody that actually goes to a place and just stays there and listens. And I'm actually thinking of affect and something so obviously something that cannot really be translated into verbal language. But the thing is that many things that I went through there, like while being for 1 month in the forest, were actually things that I thought that I doubted. So I went through like a lot of self-doubt. But then, I mean, my work, I decided to make a mini colonial move as like an experiment and to reflect on it. So I actually took some soil from the Amazon across the ocean and I took it to the Netherlands. And I started to work from that, like thinking about like stretching the landscape, but But I mean, that's my work in the sense that since I was working alone, I wasn't at that moment. I mean, I developed a sort of a methodology to transfer that, but that's another thing. For me, I'm very interested in somehow this trying to undo this dichotomies like nature, culture, and etc. So for me, this move of actually thinking that I can bring my experience and somehow transpose it to a different place through my own body and through reconnecting with materiality through displacement in a mini scale was kind of for me this working through this body that is in between, like simultaneously the colonized and the colonizer. So for me, yeah, I'm still like going through this, you know, and I'm still, yeah. So that made me really be interested in thinking of the soil, for example, as like a hyper object. And I'm still like doing this in taking many different tangents. Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know, Bianca.
Very nice.
I don't know.
That's it. Very nice. Wonderful. Because you are saying that through art and through the language, we can somehow create this great alliance, right? This great alliance between beings, this great alliance between disciplines, right? This great alliance between cultures. And I think you're right. We are totally right. But we always have to be aware of from what point of view you are like dealing, you are like exchanging, right, with this other subject or other context. And I feel that sometimes when you realize, let's see, for instance, the community engaged work with indigenous that work out, and then you realize that, like, for instance, you mentioned Claudia Andujar. Claudia Andujar spent 30 years working with Yanomami people. Yeah. So I think, like, for instance, Lab Verde, you already are like creating this tension. And I think we are succeeding just now, also with indigenous community, because you spent 10 years collaborating with communities, with like research community, with the research community, with indigenous, with in Manaus, with the cultural institutions. So, and I think we are like starting to understand this kind of tension, and we are starting to really create these possibilities where everyone can gain, right? And I think this is a whole life matter of investigation, how we really can create democratic relationships, right? And also how can we be aware of this, considering also this long history of colonization, long history of exploitation of bodies, no bodies in the expanded version of bodies, no human bodies. So, yeah.
Maybe I am being too naive now, but I was just thinking that is naive, this.
Yeah.
It's networking of different perspectives that could be a way of dealing or survive with this contemporary apocalypse, because we are in a globalized world. So, the idea of poor communities of untouchable cultures, it's not part of the reality anymore. So we are in a reality where the influences mix up each other. And I'm just thinking loud now, like, if this way of learning how to bring them together, how to bring our different experiences, and thinking about our bodies, that how we said in the beginning that it was this place now these bridge places, crossing places, to find you healthy ways of crossing, if maybe this is the way of dealing with the contemporary apocalypse, or avoiding the contemporary apocalypse. Not avoiding, because we cannot avoid, but to at least to survive then, or to fortify.
Yeah, but you are saying we are putting the discussion, thinking that the exchanging, the globalization is equal, and the globalization is not equal. Globalization is the domaining of the bodies. There is bodies that are dominating, there are bodies that are dominated. As I mentioned before, we already living the apocalypse in the Amazon. We already are living. So I think this is always, we can never forget this past and this memory.
Mm-hmm.
We can never. To build something else, we really have to recognize this history.
We have Valerie, who is holding up her hand, and she wants to participate in the conversation. And I just quickly wanted to say that normally in our encounters, we would be now in this phase where we invite the audience in, but as Lilian so kindly did, it is already open all the time. So please, as Valerie is doing now, please just join in and bring your ideas. We will have like 10 to 15 minutes more before we more or less have to close the encounter, just to let you know. So Valerie, thank you.
Thank you all already for this inspiring insights. And I just had to think of the artist and activist who's posting under the name Bundeskanzlerin on Instagram, like in a German-Swiss context, but as an immigrant from Brazil. And she posted a meme a couple of weeks ago that like is phrasing this really radical stance of saying, don't confuse your working towards decolonization if your work isn't leading to reparations and handing back country to the people who lived there before colonization. And maybe we don't have to take a radical stance like this, but it led me to a question actually to all four of you, which is like what wishes and hopes each one of you has for the role of the arts in the specific context that you are working in, to foster new relationships to the Amazon, or to shake up our the relationships that we have at the moment, or like what would you like to see happening in the closer future?
Well, I think I already answered this question somehow, saying that we really have to develop the language concerning all the aspects of the Amazon, and to represent the diversity of the Amazon. I think this for me is the goal. And also I can like understand that the language can bring like a very important contribution for climate change and climate crisis, because also deals with like turning the invisible phenomena into visible phenomena, for instance, pollution, all kind of aspect of pollution, but also colonization, and also this very complex chain of commodity exportation. But the Amazon is like exploited mostly by commodities that are sending through all kind of nations. So I think the arts also have this, I would love if the artists were more worried about trying to bring the visuality of this complexity of chain of international commerce.
Mm-hmm. I think from my side, there's just something in this, in the efforts when artists deal with Amazon, with topics of colonization, post-colonization. There is still for me something of exoticization, but not as the exotic as we had before, but exoticization of extremely carefulness, like in the sense of the untouchable place. And this is not an untouchable place. It's a place where people live. It's a place with problems. It's a place with real bodies. You can access it. You have to access it. So to make it, when dealing with this, to make it really a place that you can access and you have to access through the artistic experience. I don't know if I'm being clear. It's not that untouchable. It's not an aquarium. It's not because we are in now. And I think it's extremely great, the discussions and the careful way of dealing in the art context with these topics, but the extremely carefulness also puts somehow these places in an how you say, like in an aquarium that people cannot touch, and it makes also very inaccessible. And actually, people who has practice related with these places search exactly the opposite, search the ways of accessing and make it accessible and transmit this accessibleness to other people. And through this accessibleness to learn the respect and the memories of these places.
Yeah. There is something that I find hopeful, let's say, that has to do, and it's something also that interests me as a method or a form of speculation, like in the arts, that I think it's also very connected with what Lilian was saying about Lab Verde, that, for example, is a place that has, deals with arts, science, and like perspectives from indigenous artists and scientists, anthropologists, etc. Like that, there's all the knowledge, like many different types of knowledge all over the planet that has been, of course, suppressed by coloniality. And I think that the arts have a really important role in somehow asking questions in how like different ways of knowing can collaborate. Yes. And not take for granted like that there is a form of knowledge that is extremely more valid than another. So it's not about switching or exchanging, but it's more about adding. So I see this very much as a weave, no? As a weave of different ways of knowing. And, but this takes a sort of an openness. And I mean, but I think what it takes the most is actually to ask that people ask themselves questions, about why do I believe this and not that, or why is this, like where these things comes from. So it has to do a little bit also, I thought about this through my work in the Amazon and with the soil, a lot about with the idea of digging, and it has to do with history, ancestry, and so I think that the arts, when you can propose collaborations when it's possible, between people with different backgrounds, or if somehow it's not possible, also that people can be curious and investigate. Yeah, I think that that this, it's a little bit utopic, no, to imagine like a, let's say a non, like a platform, not where there is no hierarchy between epistemologies, but you know, at least I can feel that there are certain ways of knowing that nowadays have much more visibility, at least, than 20 years ago. So, and therefore we are even here talking about it, you know? So I think that, yeah, that's where I see some way where like the art world can propose some experiences to people that can somehow contribute to that. Yeah.
I have a question to Lilian, because now as I was hearing these answers of Bianca and Korina to Valerie's question, I again came to this topic of language, which Lilian has mentioned a few times. So Bianca mentioned the Amazon not being an untouchable place, that it is a place that should be touched or can be touched. And Korina talked about digging, like digging to find out about something. But now I'm also wondering if these words like touch and dig, for me, they are also in this context very connected to colonization and exploitation. Like someone goes there and touches land and digs and does stuff. So I was just wondering, Lilian, if you, from La Vergi's perspective, can you say that if foreign artists or foreign people come to you and start like touching and digging, can this happen from a respectful place? And do you have the feeling they come and are aware of that this action needs to happen in a respectful way? Do you understand what I mean?
Yes. Yes, thank you for the question. I really love what they both said, and I think their perspectives is concerning that understanding the Amazon through body, embody the Amazon. I think that's what they meant, because the Amazon is somehow seen from the sky. We understand the Amazon by the satellite image, right? And we project a whole imaginary about the image, about the Amazon. The Amazon is like the only landscape, not the only, it's also happened with the desert, but it's a landscape that is created in the brain, is not created with experience, is not created with ordinary life, right? Because it's like an invention. The Amazon is an invention connected to the last dream of Europeans, expeditionaries, right? The travelers from 18th century, 17th centuries. And what we are trying to do here in Lab Verde, especially in this program that we call speculative ecologies, is really understanding coexistence as a method of artistic practice. You know, to understand coexistence as a really important moment where we can learn with non-human bodies, where we can interact, where we can listen to, where we can understand inside of the forest. And it's like to be inside of the forest for 5 days, for 10 days, for 15 days. It's like a changing perspective of the world. It's like a mindset, a totally turning point for our mindsets, for reloading the mindsets. Because first of all, we don't have internet. Second, it's really when you are with your whole body inside of the landscape, you start to understand your body as a landscape. So it totally changed the perspective of me, myself, with my body and my mind. I am projecting the Amazon. No, if you are with your own body embodied inside of the landscape, you are part of the landscape. You are feeling, you are interacting. And this interaction is like hard because here the humidity is really tough. Here it's really, really hot. Here there is full of animals. The animals make a lot of noise. There are mosquitoes biting. There are ticks. Where we are going, there are several ticks. So we're like scratching yourself by ticks. You are really interacting with non-human life inside of the forest. And you start to be humbled because it's so powerful atmosphere, because you are interacting with such a diversity of beings and sounds and like noises, different noises, and also different temporalities of time. You are dealing with like a tree, there is 1,000 years old, and with like a mushroom, there is 2 weeks old. And with this set of knowledge, scientific knowledge, anthropology, indigenous knowledge, we can really understand the landscape with a totally different way. And I think the experience that we have here is that we succeed. Of course, several artists are still coming with this idea, romantic idea, that I think deals a lot with this memory of romantic culture, German romantic culture, you know, that I think we are also are influenced by this romanticism from deal with nature that is German 80s, music. These scientists and writers from Germany, from romanticus, né? Romanticism from Germany. Sorry, but I think the experience that we have is that most of the artists they are engaged with the complexity of our issues. Sorry about the English.
It's great. Completely fine. It's really completely fine. Thank you. Should we maybe take this moment to slowly wrap up? It's been 1.5 hours now. So maybe, I don't know, is there something anybody wants to add? Some final questions maybe, or now is the time? Because if not, then again, I would really like to invite everybody to send us your thoughts and your ideas even after this encounter. We will post our website in the chat again, so that you can contact us, because sometimes we take part in an encounter like that, and days after maybe we think about it again. And if you have something in your mind, maybe you see a picture that reminds you of something, or maybe you have been to the Amazon and want to share something from your experience, or pictures, or I don't know. We also, in the last encounter, someone shared a poem that came to their mind. We would be really grateful for any kind of contribution, because as Bianca, I think, already said in the beginning, we try to create a platform, like a growing platform of experiences and ideas and aspects about the topic. So feel free to send us everything that comes to your mind.
I would like to thank you. I would like to thank you for the invitation, Korina and Bianca, and also to tell you that we really learn the Amazon by the body. And it's amazing to be able to discuss with choreographers and with people that study the body movement. I really hope that we can also do something together afterwards and unfold the discussion in other projects together. And that's it. Thanks a lot.
And I would like also to thank everybody for being here, for the wonderful contribution for this, to share this this place. And I'd like also to invite you to the next encounter that is gonna happen on November 9 at 7. And it's gonna be an encounter between two artists. So one visual artist called Eric Savaggio and bad performing artist called Agata. Now you have to help me, Korina.
Siniarska or Siniarska.
Which they have different practices, but both practices relate with these non-human entities. They started the points from this, from champignons, from other perspectives. That is not the human perspective.
Nice.
Yes. And I think I missed a little bit. Sorry, but I'm back. So I also want to thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Lilian. It was really nice to talk to you. And yes, thank you all. So yes, I think that Bianca already gave the invitation, so it would be great if we can see you and talk to you again. And don't forget that you may send any resonances about this conversation later via email. You can check it on our website. It can be tomorrow, it can be after a week. It's like, you know. So thank you very much.
Tchau, tchau, pessoal. Obrigada. Beijo. Tchau, tchau.
Beijo.
Obrigada, Lilian.
Tchau, Lilian.
Thank you
Muito
so
obrigada.
much. Bye bye, everyone. Good night.